uh, on the summit, following through and the CPE, and the ideas keep getting bigger and bigger. So here's the current thinking on that. To take CPE and create a website for it, maybe within Cathcart.com, maybe separate, that remains to be seen, but to have it be like a speakers bureau site in that every person has their own individual listing. So at first we'll have a photo and a bio and links, and then maybe later we'll have like a video function or something like that to it. I don't know. I mean, that's all details to be worked out technologically. But the intent is to make it a repository of all the people who have qualified for CPE, and then make it have on the back end of it, like the Facebook page that I just created today for CPEs, a communication forum so that we can get in touch with each other. We can talk about issues related to that. But I want to consider each of you as my collaborators on taking this forward. I want to make it more substantial, more meaningful, a little more difficult to get, and just make it to where it becomes a standard that others aspire to. What are your initial reactions or thoughts on that? Dave, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. I was actually thinking about, why should I tell somebody else to join this?
Yeah.
Right now, it's pretty easy to say that, Nito Quabain, Brian Tracy, all of those, but if we keep doing it, it's going to kind of saturate it with everybody just, and so I think it's a good idea to look at making it a little bit more substantial, making it a little bit more harder to, like you said, to get it harder to get. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it being tied into a conference where then we, as the CPEs, are the speakers
Yes.
and creating a conference around it. I think that would be huge.
I think that's an excellent idea. And that's my intention, is to make this a kind of like CPAEs and CSPs at the National Speakers Association, or like other insider groups at, say, certified meeting professionals or association execs, for us to have our own little sort of subculture here. But it's all built around taking your personal expertise and making a career out of it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter whether you're a speaker or not. What matters is whether you've decided to commit to being a professional at the top of your game and developing that expertise that's going to make you portable. Say you've made your bones in real estate and you decide that you would like to venture out into other things. It's not your real estate skills that are going to help you. It's these skills, it's the horizontal skills, not the vertical.
Yeah, right.
So that's the thing. And then we can hold conferences as regularly as we can justify. I held a summit years ago at Sherwood Country Club, and I had people from all kinds of disciplines come in, people that were experts in fundraising, and they talked about strategies for if you're going to put together a nonprofit or a fundraiser for anything, how do you make sure the right audience is there so that let's say you hold a silent auction, so that the buying level is at the numbers you want to achieve? Because we had done that with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We started out really small, no Boys and Girls Clubs in the Ventura County, LA County overlap that's called Conejo Valley out in California. And we went out and we recruited people and we got some donations, some big ones, and we built our first club. And then we held a gala, and the gala was held at Sherwood Country Club. But the first year we raised, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000, which is very respectable. And then we realized there was a science to this. So we started collaborating on it. And we made sure we were inviting the right people and giving them the right reasons to want to be committed and involved. And, then we turned it into a much more prestigious event. We moved it to the Four Seasons Hotel where my son worked for so long. The silent auction items were things like a private jet to Paris, not a necklace worth $500. It was really cool things. And then the main auction, of course, that was the big deal. And then we had sponsorship tables in all these levels. And what had started out at a couple $1,000 was now like 20 grand for the diamond package. And that got you a couple of tables for 10 and some signage and a few other privileges. And then we started bringing in movie stars and celebrities and having them available for the VIP functions. And that added to it. And we ended up, they regularly, still to this day, are raising $600,000 in one night.
Wow.
The one I was in charge of first, I was in charge of like 3 of them as chair and 5 of them as MC. But the one I was totally in charge of was at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, Air Force One Pavilion. It had just opened. They had not held any public events there. Our event was the first public event ever held there in 2005. And that morning, Nancy Reagan held a special luncheon for the big donors to the museum. And then George W. Bush was there to kind of give his blessing as president. And then they left, and we rushed in and set up for our big event that evening. And we raised $280,000, no, $248,000, and had an attendance of, I think it was 409 people, something like that. But it was a big deal, because we were growing through the stages. But what I learned from all that was that if you get your culture, your tribe tight enough, you can achieve unbelievable things. And so I see that happening for CPE. We get some people to show up at these events and who are kind of big deals, and the others are going to want to be there just because so-and-so's coming. Hey, Jay, welcome aboard.
Hey, Jim.
Nice to see you.
How are you?
Have you met Dave Kaufman?
Hey,
No, I
Jay.
haven't. Hi, Dave.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Dave's out of Sarasota, and you're out of the Tampa area, so you're
Yeah.
not that far apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay comes from New York, and he's a creator. He created, for example, a toy that was it was a pen in the shape of Donald Trump, and it had
Okay.
recordings in it. And this was back during the first Trump era,
Okay.
And there it is. And the talking Donald Trump pen.
I want one.
I can't hear it. Can you play it for us again?
Sure. And Dave, if you want one, you two can, and you too, Jim, I'll be happy to send you guys samples.
Oh, I'd love to have one.
Oh,
Absolutely. Thank
At
you.
the end of the, email me and I'll get it out tomorrow, Tuesday.
Dynamite. Hi, Ken. Welcome.
Thank you, Jay.
Sure. I'm trying to find the share sound. I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah. Well,
And Jay,
Dave-
did you market that pen yourself?
Yeah, it took me a year of having no money and being broke and nobody accepting it, every company rejecting it. And one day Sean Hannity played it on a show, and it went viral, and we did like $1 million in sales in less than a month.
Nice.
And it
Less
kinda
than a
launched my
month.
career.
Look
Launched
at
my
that.
career. Yeah.
And that
Yes,
was
I
just one
wanna
of his
connect with
minor
you.
ventures. It was big at the time, but Jay's way bigger than that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely want to connect with you on another matter then, Jay, because I have an opportunity as well.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
I'm gonna put my email and my phone number in the chat. Anybody who wants to get a hold of me, I'll send you all gifts that you'll
Thank
love.
you. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
And this book, Get Wallet Wise, by this man,
Okay.
yeah, he's even wearing similar colors today. There,
Yeah.
Ken Remsen. So welcome aboard, my friend.
Thank you.
I was, by the way, just before our summit in California last week, I was with Vanessa Emerson of Dental Speakers Institute. She's got a business built around people who are professional speakers and consultants only in the dental industry. And she wrote this little book, but she was holding a Dental Speakers Institute and had over 100 people there who are full-time professionals in speaking in the dental profession. Who knew? And next week in Austin, Texas, I'm speaking for SCN, which is a similar organization for speakers in the dental profession. I mean, seriously, I knew there were a lot of people in that profession, but I had no idea that it would support a whole body of people who are specialists in speaking and consulting only for dentists. Remarkable. So I spoke at their conference, and Vanessa said, "Hey, I want to work with you." And so it looks like I'm going to be speaking at more of their conferences and doing some training specifically for them. So that's kind of cool. We may have a few of them joining the Going Pro or the Experts Academy. You know, we'll see what comes from that. But I went from there directly to La Jolla when I was with the others for the summit. And the echoes from the summit are still coming in, and it just warms my heart. What a great experience all the way around. Yes.
It was.
Yep. So the Friday Zoom meetings are basically Ask Jim Friday, but this Friday is Jim asking you. I want to know, what are you working on? How can we help? What's next for you? How can we help? And Ken, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Yeah. The big thing that I'm working on is the business plan for launching a financial consulting business. And part of that is to actually also include a training and consulting arm that's going to work with EAPs of probably small and middle-sized employers to provide financial counseling for at-risk employees or employees that are suffering from some sort of a financial hardship that they need some help with. Because we're finding 50–60% of employees have an issue in that area. It's affecting their work performance, affecting their mental health. And so I would like to continue to, in addition to the financial consultant side, create a consulting and training program so that I can go meet with some key people at the companies, get them trained in financial coaching, because it's not super complicated. If I can do it, anybody can, and get them set up so that they can help their employees. Because I'm only one guy, I'm not going to be able to help everyone everywhere, although I'd love to. But that's the way to my thinking right now as far as how to scale it. So I'm kind of looking for some suggestions. Number one is the thought process of scaling through training people on site. Is that a good idea? And if not, or if it is, maybe some other alternatives.
Good. Well, you've got a good bunch of people to be listening to today on that. There's so many models of people who have done that over the years. You know, I was just thinking the other day about John Maxwell and Marshall Goldsmith and some of those other, and Ziegler. You know, they're Dave Kaufman and Kevin Davis both have been involved with the Ziegler organization, and Howard Partridge and how they've done that. And they're taking the central idea and giving other people an easy way to teach it and make a living doing that. Lisa Marie David, who's often on these calls and has been for a few years now, is a licensee with the Ziegler organization and does the same. When I started out, I was trained to sell Earl Nightingale's programs. And then I became licensed by Wilson Learning Corporation, not licensed, certified, to teach the social styles sales strategy program, which was a DISC model that was widely popular in the financial services industry. And Larry Wilson was the one heading that up. So yes, Kenneth, there's a ton of opportunity for you to scale this. And by the way, Dave and Kevin especially, Ken has a real depth of content on this. You know, like the content that you have, Kevin, on your Dreamcatcher and that whole model. And then Dave, what you've done all the way with EdgeCon and everything else with DISC. That's what, I mean, Ken doesn't need the content. And in fact, he's got the tools. He's got a workbook, you know, a big handbook. He's got the book itself. Then he's got a little book for credit card, how to reduce credit card debt and gain control of that. So he doesn't need the tools, but right now his full focus is being a Fidelity agent, basically. And so he doesn't have the freedom to go out like we do and just make it happen. He's got to build it alongside his regular professional commitment and then get to the point where he can shift his weight to that foot and make that his full-time venture.
Right. And what I'm waiting for is what I'm working toward, and I'm almost done with, is achieving the certified financial planning designation, which looks like I'll have completed by the end of the year. I've already passed the exam. I'm just waiting to get the experience. But I did have a big question. Here's something that just popped into my head while I was describing this business model to you. Do you gentlemen think that, let's say I'm an employee, paid by the hour, having some struggles, and Ken's come along, 6 weeks ago, trained 2 or 3 key people in the company to be a, personal financial coach. Do you think there'd be any issues with the employee working with someone else in the same company? Do you think there might be some indigestion there?
I suspect you might. What do you think?
Yeah, I think with the financial services, it's so regulated. And the reason I know that, a friend of mine, Gary Arblaster, he took DISC and made it for financial advisors. And so, and it's a product that I'd love to show it to you sometime, that it's made for that. But he was so regulated in even building that module out. And he was telling me about it. So I do think there might be a little bit of conflict of interest in that, as long as you're part of the company and then training people in that company. I think you might run into some kind of head block.
Yeah,
So
I would use Dave Ramsey as my model,
right,
because Dave's gone more generic, mainstream with his approach to it, and seems to have avoided the usual pitfalls of having the regulators say, "What? New player on the field, quick, tackle him!" Right?
right.
Yeah,
Right.
Kevin, you were going to say something?
Oh, good.
No? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Jay, any quick thoughts on that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Who were you
Jay.
say?
No,
this-
Jay
This
Kemp.
is not an area that I know anything about.
Okay. Well, the main thing we're thinking about here is not what he consults on or trains on, but the fact that he's taking what he teaches and looking for a way to scale it, build a business that allows him to teach others to do it, so that he becomes the source from which they receive all of their product materials, their ongoing training. So his business X years from now is that he's holding a series of train the trainer events throughout the year and collaborating every week with those that are licensed in his system. And then he's the spokesperson going out and growing the interest in and demand for all of those other people. Does that pretty much work for describing the dream, Ken?
Right, to somehow kind of make a connection. It's almost similar, Fidelity Investments actually has an onboard person that deals with, believe it or not, meditation. And so they are basically trained in that, and they provide that service to any employees at Fidelity that would like to, and participate. But my concern is if I train 3 people at a company and then you've got somebody that's having an issue that's rank and file, they're going to go, well, I don't really want George to know the fact that I'm behind in my mortgage. And
Yeah.
so, and if that's the case, I understand that. And so I'm just trying to come up with some alternatives. I can be the guy, that they send the rank and file employee to talk to me about their mortgage. But like I say, I'm trying to scale it up. If I've
It'd
got,
be easy to get overwhelmed
yeah,
so that
real
you've got
fast.
a
Yeah.
full plate every single morning.
Yep.
Uh, it- it- let's look at the need itself.
Yep.
Need itself is universal. Lord, the number of people that don't have a grip on their finances is way greater than the people who do.
Yep.
And so there will never be a non-market for what you've got.
Right.
Will always be, the demand will always be there, but you've got to translate that demand into actionable
Right.
demand. And that means you got to make it safe for
Mhm.
people to learn the skills. I went to a course years ago in La Jolla called the Finance Course.
Oh.
A guy named Roger, don't remember his last name yet, was teaching it, and it was part of the Money and You network, or at least it had grown out of that. And I don't know a lot about Money and You, but I know it's sort of a new age approach like EST to managing your money. So I took myself and my wife Paula and our teenage son Jim Jr. at the time, and we went to this, and it was like, I don't know, 5 or 8 evening programs held in La Jolla, California, where we lived. And so we would go at making this up, maybe 5:30 and stay until 7:30, whatever it was. We went, and it was a small group of people, but wow, what a powerful experience! Because the first thing we had to do was, with our own spouse or family, in my case, get real and put all the numbers down. And then you had to look at what are the implications of that. And then you'd get into a group discussion with some of the other people in the room, not talking about your numbers, but talking about
Right.
percentages and about vulnerabilities.
Yep.
And then you'd come back together, and people were reporting the breakthroughs they were having and the ideas they were getting and all that. And by the end of it, we all 3 felt very much stronger about our control over our personal finances. So you could have that kind of a course
Right.
that is
I like it.
facilitated by yourself at first, and then you train other facilitators, and it becomes the filtering tool to put people into your counseling or coaching,
Right.
coaching or counseling, easy for me to say, circles.
Right. Like a
And that
network.
becomes the ongoing thing that can be done through Facebook pages, Zoom calls, actual physical meetings, or whatever.
Right. My question 1 is, how did Roger charge for that?
It was substantial.
Okay.
It was a few $1,000s.
Okay. Okay.
So, we really had to step up. But it was sold through a demo meeting. So kind
Right.
of like Dale Carnegie, and Dale Carnegie is another example of what we're talking about.
Right. Right.
The Carnegie organization has outlasted almost everybody in the training space when you think about it. And they've got a very simple model that's built kind of like Taekwondo or karate or whatever, where you get the belts, except at Carnegie, you'll get a pencil or a pen or a ribbon or whatever and
Right.
move through the chairs. And then Toastmasters has a similar model. I've done a lot of work with them over the year. Well, not with the organization, but with people in it to help them figure out how to follow that sequence from just introducing yourself in a crowd to being a distinguished Toastmaster or whatever years later. But the formula works. You know, I was in JC's and JC's had a great model, but lost the flame went out. You know, we were the cause of the baby boom. When I say the cause, I don't mean the cause of, but the most popular cause among people in the baby boom. If you want to serve your community, don't join Rotary yet. Join the Junior Chamber of Commerce. And there were in 1976, when I was at the headquarters in charge of leadership training, we had 356,000 members. Today they have maybe 20,000 members, and they're a dying organization by comparison.
Yeah,
We're worldwide. It had 356,000 US and then an ECHO organization worldwide. And the purpose of JC's was leadership training through community service. So everyone who came in had to go through the simple little beginner steps to get to where you were serving on a committee, chairing a committee, planning a project, reporting on a project, competing, throughout. And that's what I did, of course, from entry level through the national headquarters. So what can we learn from all this? Well, each one of these models has similarities to the other models, whether it's JC's or Toastmasters, Dale Carnegie or Ziegler Organization or Dave Ramsey. They have a simple entry point, a very clear pathway. Ramsey's got his baby steps, right? And he's got a breakthrough moment. And that's where you ring the bell, you know, financial freedom bell. You've paid off all your debt. You've done all the steps. Well, the same thing needs to be true in whatever model you come up with. It doesn't have to be parallel to his, probably will be somewhat because it's the same category, but make sure it's got your own flavor.
Right, yeah. So right now, based on this conversation, I'm thinking at some point, I'm going to need to, through the small group process, I will have built up a network of other professionals that can provide financial coaching, and that those would be the people that the company would contact, and we could assign someone or align someone that could have some backup if that person's not available. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, to try, again, not to get overly complicated, but to be able to have a resource that a company can rely on when they've got an employee in a bind.
Here's another thought on that.
Yeah,
There's financial coaching and then there's financial advice.
correct. Two different things. Yep.
It's yeah, and that needs to be just crystal clear.
Yep.
Because otherwise you end up with all kinds of legal issues.
Right,
So
and there's
financial coaching is how to get control of your finances. Financial advice is where to put your money.
right.
And so if you can keep those two separate, then I think you're safe going with the financial coaching side of it. Any thoughts, Dave, Kevin, Jay?
Yeah, so Kenneth, are you looking to go outside of Fidelity as well and provide services for, you know, just household people, or is it you strictly looking to stay in the financial services?
Yeah, no, I'm going to be staying in the financial services, but I won't be with Fidelity. This would be basically I'd be opening up an RIA type business for my financial planning specifically. And then in addition, part of the business plan is to come up with the training and consulting regarding Get Wallet Wise. And so the Get Wallet Wise is financial coaching. And so there is no real regulation for that. However, I do belong to a very credible organization that is specifically wrapped around financial coaching. And my understanding is that as soon as I get the CFP, that particular organization will provide a similar designation, but for their organization, just because I have the CFP. And so that's the credential that I'll be walking into the company with, and I will not be providing financial planning. However, and we've talked about this before, I think, is that if there are some key people in the company that do need financial planning, if that makes sense, then that's a separate conversation. But I'm looking to structure a business model in which we're providing some assistance to the rank and file employees that are having some financial issues that a coach could help them with.
I just had a thought. When I was on the staff of the JCs, as I said, I was in charge of leadership training. They called it individual development. And I managed several programs. One was on speaking, one was on leadership, one was on personal development, one was on family communication, and one was on personal financial management. And in collaboration with the American Bankers Association, I authored a course called Personal Financial Management, or Personal Financial Planning, I think was the title we used for it. But it was
Ooh, yeah.
just, the raw fundamentals.
Right.
And what I'm thinking is, if you approach this as if you were designing a nationwide high school course
Mhm.
on personal financial management, personal money management, whatever, that would probably be the best way to structure it.
Mhm.
Because you know that if you design it that way, it's going to be teachable by people who've been qualified to teach it. And so, and you even may find a point at which certain schools will embrace it
Mhm.
and say, hey, we want that in our curriculum. Oh, well, in that case,
right.
here's my educational
Right.
system, and you do that under that umbrella, have a little bit different agreement with them than you would have with commercial or entrepreneurial.
Right, and the good news is the workbook is ready to go, and
Yeah.
actually what I'm thinking about is I could approach a company and say, look, I provide you with this individual development program. Let's bring everybody in. Let's bring all the employees in. Everyone will benefit from this, and that way that relationship is built, and then everybody gets a copy of Get Wallet Wise, or everyone gets a copy of the workbook, which covers these basic financial coaching concepts. And then from there go, and this is what I charge if you've got you've got the need to have individuals contact my organization privately, so in case they need some coaching. So
Good.
does that sound?
By the way, as soon as any person receives your book,
Mhm.
consider them part of your ongoing family for the rest
Right.
of your career.
That's right. Yeah.
So you want dialogue with them. You want to be able to survey them from time to time. And this can pay off nicely for you down the road. And I hope everyone here is listening to this with your own interests in mind, not just Kenneth's, because his is a metaphor or a model for us to think about our own areas, right? So if everybody who gets one of his books or participates in one of his programs is considered part of his lifelong business family, then when it's time for him to do a study, he can survey his business family and through them other people and come up with some hard research numbers that can then be reported in the news media with conviction. And you become sort of the go-to guy, like a guy I knew in California. He passed away recently. Dave Powers, uh, JD Power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, JD Power and Associates. Dave is what he went by. And he lived in Westlake Village, California, and I lived in Thousand Oaks, which those are virtually the same town. And so I knew him and talked with him several times. But how he got started was just doing a project for, I think it was the Rotax engine or something for Mazda or somebody, back when. And that report got him some visibility, and he started expanding his studies and doing more research. And he became very research based, and then was able to certify other people because his research was so solid. And ultimately, he became wealthy and made his family wealthy, and a lot of other people. And they had a big headquarters there in Westlake Village. And McGraw-Hill, the publishing company out in New York, bought them. And so Jamie Power, J.D. Power the third or fourth, whatever he is, was able to stay involved as a senior advisor, but not have the worries about building the business any further. because his dad had retired and he'd stepped in and
Mhm.
Raw Hill's running it. So he just earned a sweet salary and continued to use the name with the company. So
that's-
how can you take what you do, Jay, Dave, Kevin, and those of you who listen to this later, Allison, specifically, how can you take this kind of thinking and grow your own business that way? No, yeah, Jay.
I just was, while you were talking, I was looking at your book, Kenneth,
Mhm.
on Amazon.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed the last review that you got was in October of 23. So I don't
Mhm.
know if are you actively promoting the book and trying to get people to go on Amazon to get it?
Well, so if you know a little bit about Amazon and books and advertising, if you'd like to make a small fortune selling a book, you need to start out with a large fortune. So I do some advertising during the Christmas season, the 3 months prior to that. But otherwise, it's just a tremendous loss, and I'm just helping Mr. Bezos get his kids through college or whatever else he spends his
Jay
money.
does know a great deal about that, by the way.
I'm actually close to an 8-figure seller on Amazon. That's all I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we must spend, I don't know, $20,000 a month on advertising on Amazon.
Right.
But I think it's important because the people that you get on Amazon,
Mhm.
those are your customers. You can promote to them further. Like, do
Right.
you have something in your book that allows them to get more information from you, or maybe like
Yeah.
something they can scan to
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
the last page of the book, in fact, not just the last page, there are different links inside the book for specific forms that are basically are resources that are on my website. So if we're working on a credit card expense list, there's the link to go ahead and click on that on my website to download those downloadable resources. So those do exist. And so, yeah, I'm just taking a break on Amazon advertising for this time. I have spent enough money to justify saying that I've primed the pump and through the Amazon process. But I'm just taking a break on that for a little while and using other methods to move the book. For example, I had a Toastmasters conference last week, and I set up a booth there and a table and was selling books, but more importantly, just making relationships with the people there to talk about that. And from that, I immediately booked several money coaching customers to get to do that type of thing. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm not too worried about the I'd love the Amazon to be a thing, but it's September, October, November, December are the big months that it actually sort of makes sense to spend the money I was spending on advertising there.
I was thinking more in terms of credibility, because a lot of times people will go to Amazon, they see it somewhere else, they'll go to see what the reviews are for your book, and maybe try to get it up to 100 reviews.
Yeah.
Right now, you only got like 9 written reviews. People will look at those written reviews before they buy a book. So they may hear about it at a Toastmaster conference, and then they go, well, I wonder what, I should have gotten one at the Toastmasters conference. Let me go on to his
And you can encourage people to do a review
Right.
without even making any new sales. Just reach out to the people
Yeah.
you've got. Good. And
Get
Dave,
Try to
Jay,
get up
Thank you.
over 100 reviews, maybe.
yeah, I've seen in the chat that you've got your information up there. Very helpful. And by the way, I posted today a document on our Going Pro page, and it's from Robin Kriesman. Robin, through this conversation, he has a document where when he's working with a client, a speaker, for example, he said, what do you do? Who do you do it for? What's special about it, et cetera? Well, it's his 5 W's document, and does a very nice job of outlining that thought process. And so he submitted it as a gift to us, and I uploaded it onto our Facebook group page. So you're able to go there and check that out. Let's see. I want to talk for just a second about Allison's question that she raised to me yesterday, but I want to hear what you need first. So, Kevin, Dave, Jay,
I have a quick one.
that we can help you with. What'd you say, Jay?
I have a really quick one.
Okay.
I want to do better in my Toastmasters competitions. and I want to improve the quality of my voice. I want to make it more resonant, more just deeper. And I'm wondering, do you know any good voice coaches?
Offhand, no, but I don't perceive that you need voice coaching.
Really?
No, you've got a good voice.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a great radio voice.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
We're
Well,
just saying, you know, speaking as an ear, uh, what I'm hearing doesn't need improvement. Now, if you were talking like this, I would say maybe it's time for Jay to take some voice lessons. But if you got what you've got right now, you're doing just fine.
okay. Thank you, Jim.
And I've heard you speak, you know, when you're on the platform, you come across well. Yes,
All right.
Dave.
There is a guy on TikTok. He's a Chinese. I think his name is Jay. I'm trying to find it, and I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
But he's a phenomenal coach on positioning your posture so that your voice becomes. And I picked up a lot of tips from him. But he's also hand gestures and everything. I think his name is Jay actually, but I'll find it and text it to you.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Jim,
You're-
just so as long as I have you here, can
Yeah.
you put in your name and address where I can send samples out to? Because I've got Dave's and I've got who else do I have in here? I have Dave and
Mine's
Kevin.
coming.
Okay, all right. Dave and Kevin have got anything. I want to send you all a gift package.
Thank
That'll be
you.
awesome.
There you go.
That'll be awesome.
Thank you.
I'm putting mine in right now.
Great.
Got it. 7, 8, 7, da, da, da. There we go. By the way, years ago, I went to a good voice coach named Gary, Gary Katona, Catona, in Los Angeles, who at the time was building a video voice coaching program. And I don't know if he ever got that completed, but he's worth looking up because
Gary
he was
Katona?
coaching at that time that he was coaching me. He was also coaching Paula Abdul,
Wow.
Dennis Weaver. Remember Chester?
Yeah, yeah,
Jones?
McLeod.
Yeah. What's his name? Quincy.
Klugman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Jack
What
Klugman.
was his first name?
I think it was Jack. Jack
Yeah,
Klugman.
Jack Klugman.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was Quincy.
Remember, I was only 3 years old when those shows came out.
Yeah, and he was also coaching. One day when Paula and I pulled up to his house for my session in the Hollywood Hills, we had to wait until his previous student pulled out so we could pull in. And his previous student, who we met in the process of that, was Robert Blake.
Oh, wow.
Robert
Awesome.
Blake,
Wow.
who was
Yeah.
accused of killing the guy in a restaurant. You know, Robert Blake, who was an action,
Right.
an actor in TV, and his license plate was "Says Who," SEZWHO. It was a white Bronco, believe it or not.
Oh my God.
Anyway, Gary Katona was very good, and I went through the whole process with him, learning to make sounds and to overcome what ended up making my voice hoarse unnecessarily, because I was speaking like 120 times a year at the time. So
Right.
Gary Katona is one to look up.
I'll check him out. Thank you.
Yeah, he also coached Shirley MacLaine. I mean, all kinds of big deal people.
Jeez.
And he was not expensive, surprisingly. Let's see. I wanted to get back to you, Dave. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just typing in the guy's name. His name is
Oh, okay.
Vin Gang. Gang, I guess is how you spell it. Just YouTube him. Amazing.
Okay.
Gang.
There was
Vin
another guy, a
Gang.
voice coach in LA who had a European accent, like Scandinavian or something. And his name escapes me at the moment, but maybe it'll pop in.
Pierce.
he did a video series and he came
Peers,
to the Los
PERS.
Angeles NSA meetings and did a presentation one time at my request.
Pierre Bristow,
Say it again.
Pear Bristow.
That's him.
Yeah, yeah. I got the course. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, Per
Yeah.
Bristow.
Oh, good. Okay.
And all of them seem to take you back to the yeah, oh, you know, all that stuff, because it matters, right? Yep. Kevin, specific item you'd like our attention on?
I think I picked up a lot of stuff on Ken where I'm turning my Quick Lube Expert book into that course
Okay.
and doing all that. So very similar. So I think I'm good.
Good. And I just watched not an hour ago a presentation that Kevin gave at a baccalaureate, a high school baccalaureate. Did a fine job. And of course, that's more of a like a church presentation than it is like a business speech. But he represented us well. He'd make us proud.
Thanks, sir.
One of the things I mentioned to you, Kevin, was empathizing with your audience.
Yes, sir.
Would give you more power. Here's the thought. Let's say that any of us are going to be delivering tonight a baccalaureate presentation to a high school graduating class. Okay? I want to walk you through my thought process and you can elaborate on it with anything that occurs to you. First thing I would do is I would say, okay, now let me think about who's my listener. Who am I really talking to here? I'm talking to a bunch of people at a pivotal transition in their life, an imprinting moment, what psychologists call a teachable moment, a time when a big process has concluded and another one's commencing, and there's lots of fear and apprehension around the new one. And there's also excitement around the new one. So what am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at, let's say 400 people in the graduating class. I've got people in that class who live in dysfunctional homes and are afraid of their own parents. I've got people in that class who are struggling financially to stay alive, let alone to do well. I've got people in that class that are born with a silver spoon, and anything they ask for, they can pretty much get. I've got those in the class that are physically or intellectually gifted and everything comes easily to them. And I've got those that are not, and everything they do is just an enormous struggle. I've got some that are saying, I'll show you, and they're going to make their way in the world no matter what, but they might make it on the dark side if they're not careful, right? I've got others in there that are saying, yeah, that's all wonderful, but you don't understand. I'm not enough, right? You've got people that are in love. You've got people that are heartbroken. You've got every form of human status imaginable represented in that audience. So if I say to the audience, what does success mean to you? How many answers will I get?
As many as are in the audience.
Almost, but let's assume we can group them into clumps of similarity. How many of those groupings do you think we would have out of a typical audience, regardless of the number?
Probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah. And they would be, some of them would want business success. Some of them have no desire for business success. Some of them want a life of service. You know, they're going to go into a convent or some kind of a, Mother Teresa mode. Others are going to work in nonprofits, or I'm going to be a nurse like mom, a teacher like dad. I'm going to work for the phone company. I'm going to be an engineer, or I'm going to fix automobiles because I love working on machines. I'm going to be an internet marketer. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be a movie star. You got everything like that represented. So the more you can empathize with all these mindsets, and I'm not just talking to you, Kevin, I'm talking to everybody, more you can pick up on the fact that all of this is represented there, the more you can make the examples you give, the statements and suggestions you make, adaptable by each individual. Right? So let's assume instead of a high school baccalaureate, it's a Tony Robbins audience, and you're the speaker. Tony's not there, he's not present, but it's the audience that would come for him, but they came instead for you. All right? They don't know beans about you, but the salespeople did a great job. And so they're there, and they're a typical Tony Robbins audience of 1,000 people, eager to succeed, but at the same time, eager to overcome all kinds of fears and apprehensions and you can't do it, you're not good enough, and all those things as well. And what you want to do is you want to inspire these people to commit to a rewarding and meaningful life path. How do you do that? What's one of the things you would do? Dave?
I would identify with them and say, tell them my story. This is what I experienced. This is where I came from. I'd tell them the story of how low I got and then how I got out.
Yeah.
Make it relatable.
Yeah. I think that's important. And it's important we do that with humility, as opposed to look at me,
Yeah.
And of course you do that, Dave. I'm not implying you wouldn't. But some people do. Some people do make it about them when it's nothing's about you. You're just the sound in the front of the room. The audience is there for the audience's benefit. And as long as you serve their needs, then you're the hero as a speaker. But if you just do a great show, all you are is a performer. So telling your own story, which we all do, it has to be tempered by don't make the story about you. Make the story, and what? How can I not make it about me? It's about, I don't know, me. Well, no, it isn't. It's about your path. It's about your experience. It's about your journey, so that they can identify with that journey and say, oh, that's kind of like me, except mine was worse. Or that's kind of like me, but mine wasn't as bad as his or hers, right? I was talking with Allison Doss yesterday, and we were talking about how does she generate more paid speaking engagements instead of paying to be on platforms. And, a big part of that is to be able to get her story out there and find out who it resonates with. And I said, to me, looking from the outside in, knowing that you've struggled with addiction and all kinds of enormous issues and had a really, really challenging path compared to most people. What I think you're about, and I'm talking to her, is helping desperate people find hope again. Because she was absolutely desperate. And she found hope. And she put her life back together. And she's been in recovery for quite a while now. And she's growing a business and, and starting to reach out, and is having great success when she speaks with the audience, really rushing to connect with her. So when we tell our story, it needs to be told in a way that is not about us. And I just keep hearing myself say that, and I say, but it's about you, so that seems contradictory, but I hope you're getting that it shouldn't be and needn't be. So the second thing is, we want them to know that we already understand the thought processes that have been going on with them. Like one time I stepped up in front of an audience and I said to them, all you need is another old white guy in a suit telling you how to live. And then I just paused and smiled. And I knew there was a good third of the audience that was thinking, what, again, really? I mean, give me somebody I can relate to. And so then I talked with them about how do you make your life meaningful, satisfying, rewarding? How do you live a life that you feel was worthy of living, right? And so if I'm trying to reach desperate people and give them hope, my first question is, which desperate people? Because I could be Mother Teresa and live in poverty and serve the poorest of the poor and barely have enough to nourish myself through the next day if I did it wrong. But if I want to make an abundant life doing this, then I got to figure out, okay, who's desperate, but nobody knows it yet. Because it looks like they have money. It looks like they have success. It looks like they've got it together. How do I pierce that veil? How do I not position myself as a recovering addict, but position myself as a person who's vanquished their fears and foes? And then in the process, I share with them that I went through all this deep valley that she went through. So you find first, who can afford to pay for what it is you've got to offer? And what are they dealing with? What are they afraid of? What are they concerned about? What do they wish were true? What do they wish wasn't? And how can you empathize with that and give them a short-term, immediate solution that would be like, here's nourishment for the next hour, and then draw them to you to get more nourishment going forward, and then to be self-nourishing as a result of that. Because what we want, those of us that care, what we want is graduates, not dependents. Those people that have a following, all of whom swear by the person they're following and have pictures of them up on their wall and deify the person they're following, those followers are dependents. And that's a very dysfunctional and unhealthy relationship. And I tell my clients, I said, look, I measure my success by how little you need me tomorrow. So I want to work myself out of a job, and maybe I can help you at a higher level after that. And so the goal is to produce graduates. How do you know a graduate is a graduate? Because they are self-sustaining on what they graduate. You don't expect your high school students to be brain surgeon because you weren't teaching them that, but you do expect them to do the high school things, right? And then on up. So give me some feedback on all that.
Well, that was really good, Jim. I do need to leave at 4. I got 2 minutes left. But I have an appointment I got to get to. But no, that was really good, and I can't wait to see who Allison is going to become. I hope she listens to this.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for her. I think she has a tremendous story, and I can't wait to see who she becomes.
Cool. And she's looking for paying platforms. So any referral that you think would be appropriate, by all means, pass it on. And we're all looking for paid platforms, but especially for Allison, if you've got a referral or any kind of quick thoughts on that, by all means, pass them along. I told her, since she's in the salon business, that she's following the path Patricia Fripp followed, from being a men's hairstylist all the way to being president of the National Speakers Association. So it's definitely doable from that starting point.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Kevin, quick thoughts?
Nice to meet all of y'all.
Take care, Dave.
Yeah, see, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, very powerful. I think that really, I like the way you said, tell your own story without making the story about you. That's where I struggle is I want her to tell my story. Everybody who's coached me and tried to help me want me to tell my story. And they want me basically I feel like they want me to brag on, look at what I've done. And that's not me. I can't do that. And so this is making me, okay, how do I tell? So in writing the Dream Catcher, I've put my story in the beginning of that in a format that's not, you will know it's me, but you don't know it's me when I'm telling you. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Well,
yeah.
you know,
So
Ivan Meisner, BNI, Business Networking International.
I've heard you talk about him. Yes.
He wrote this book, The Third Paradigm, and he's got a
Uh-huh.
guy in here that he talks about named Richard, and Richard's him.
Uh-huh.
By contrast, and it works very well for that book. By contrast, in my own books, I talk about me, but I try to do it in a way that doesn't make it prideful. And
Right.
I've had people tell me, Jim, you're one of the most humble people I know. And I think, you don't know many people, seriously. And they say, no, you know, I said, yeah, but I was talking about me and I was telling you about things I've done. They said, yeah, but it didn't come across that way. It came across like you were
Right.
telling me about how this worked and that I could do it too. So I,
Yeah.
you know, I pray that that's true, but there is a danger in making it your story.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've been so afraid of doing that I've held off on doing it because I'm afraid of crossing that line.
Yeah.
And
In your
so,
case, I would not recommend using another name and telling your story.
uh-huh,
Yours needs to be you telling your story,
uh-huh,
but we can work on how you tell it. So
mhm.
don't be concerned about that. Jay,
All right.
closing comments as we're wrapping up here?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin is the type of guy, like Craig Valentine, you know Craig Valentine?
I know
Yeah.
the name, but I don't
He
remember.
was the 1999 world champion Toastmaster, and he's a African-American gentleman, very, very
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
great speaker. And he said, you wanna be similar, not special to the audience, right? You want the audience to think that you're similar to them, not that you're some special guy that only you can get out of your own mess,
Right.
and so that they can relate to you. And I look at Kevin and I just see this very nice, humble, unassuming guy. If he told me his story, I would just get the idea that he was relating to me. Like, you know, have you ever been in this situation? Here I was, and he wasn't trying to make me feel bad. His personality would never make me feel that way. So I just want to let you know that, Kevin. I
Yeah.
don't think there'd be
Thank
any
you, Jay.
problem. Also, I think intention has a lot to do with it. If your intention is to brag, even if you're trying to come off like you're this humble guy, it always comes through. You know, you just know this guy's just trying to impress me. But Kevin, you don't do that. You really want to help people. And I would never think that you were trying to impress me. I would really feel that you were trying to help me. If that feedback is helpful at all, just, you know.
Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate that.
Pure gold. Thank you. Kenneth, any thoughts as we're closing up here?
Yeah, just real quick. Like I said, I like the graduation process. I think in the type of course that I'm going to create for employees or others, there should be a graduation process, some sort of certification that you are a graduate and not a dependent.
Yeah, love it.
Right.
Well, thank you all for being here. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have
Bye,
a
guys.
great holiday weekend. Take
You
care.
too.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you.